Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie if you're new here, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you about the 8 books I read in the month of January. I read 2 memoirs, 2 thrillers, 2 fantasy books, 1 romance novel, and 1 general fiction / literary fiction. I don't really know what to categorize this book as, but YOLO. I had 4 5-star reads, 2 4-star reads, a 3-star, and a 2-star. Let's get into the video. The first book I read in January was Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, and I gave it 5 stars. This is Alice Feeney's newest release. It's a thriller. Out of all genres, I think I read thrillers the most, even more so than romance, just because I love how fast-paced these books are, and I love to be shocked, and I love to be tricked, okay? I don't like figuring out what the twist is. I want to be completely blown away, and I did not guess the twist in this one, so I really loved it. Let me read you the summary, and you're going to want to go read it right now. Author Grady Green is having the worst best day of his life. He calls his wife Abby to share some exciting news as she is driving home. He hears Abby slam on the brakes when she sees something in the road ahead. Over Grady's protests, Abby gets out of the car. When he eventually finds her car by the cliff edge, the headlights are on, the driver's door is open, her phone is still there, but his wife has disappeared. A year later, Grady is still overcome with grief and desperate to know what happened to Abby. He can't sleep and he can't write, so he travels to a tiny, remote Scottish island to try to get his life back on track. And then he sees the impossible, a woman who looks exactly like his missing wife. Apart from the story, I love the setting. I think being on a remote Scottish island is so fun and spooky. I loved the vibes of this book, dare I say. I wasn't thinking it was going to be a 5-star read until the end. I was like, oh, this is really good, like I'm entertained, and then what I thought was the twist happened, and then boom, another twist, and I was instantly sold on 5 stars. I enjoyed Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney as well. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I loved this one so much more than that book. So definitely check this out. And it's not too scary. Then I picked up Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz, and I gave this memoir 5 stars. I was reading this like it was a thriller, okay? I was flipping the pages like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next? I was thinking about this book when I was away from it. And I hate to say this because this is Bethany's life, like she lived through this trauma and stuff, but she writes her story in such a captivating way. She's so well spoken, was entertained the whole time, and I feel like that doesn't often happen in nonfiction, but she definitely caught my attention from the beginning. And I think it was so interesting to me because, like everybody else, I had no idea that she was in a cult. This is about how she was in a cult during One Tree Hill, when she was filming One Tree Hill. And I'm so glad she got to finally tell her story, but I'm definitely so sad for her for all those years that she was trapped in that situation. If you want to get into nonfiction, I think this is a good one to start with. Go read this. Guys, I was starting to think I was crazy at this point in January because the next book I picked up also ended up being 5 stars, and that is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I have a whole reading vlog on this book. I will put a card for it right here. What can I say about this book? Just read it. Just read it. This is the one that I didn't know what to categorize it as. I think it's just fiction. I looked up what literary fiction is because I feel like I throw that word around and I don't even know what it means, but literary fiction is a little bit deeper than general fiction. It shows more character development and bigger political, social issues is kind of what I was getting from the definition. I don't exactly know. And honestly, this does have bigger issues at play in this book. Definitely politics and a ton of character growth. So you know what? I just talked myself into it. Maybe this is literary fiction, but don't let that scare you because it is so easy to read. Every chapter ends on a cliffhanger. There are short chapters. This is compared to Daisy Jones and the Six because if you read that book, you know that it's set up as like a documentary style. And the same with this book. There are interviews, and of course there is romance. Romance for the ages. It is about two figure skaters and it spans over the course of maybe 10 years. By the end of reading this book, you will feel like these characters are real. They still feel real to me. And I knew this was going to be a 5-star book 30 pages in. So if that doesn't convince you to read this, I don't know what will. I'm getting 5-star vibes already. And guys, you're not gonna believe this. I'm talking about these in the order I read them. The next book I read, also 5 stars, and it was another memoir by Sherry Frankie. It's called The House of My Mother. Again, another nonfiction book that was so well written. If you're not familiar with 8 Passengers. 8 Passengers was a YouTube channel that Sherry's mother, Ruby Frankie, started, and it blew up. Her mom was a mommy vlogger. Her mom vlogged every aspect of their lives. There was no privacy. And she seemed like a crazy mom on camera that was just super strict and brutal, but come to find out that there was something more sinister going on, and her mom is actually in prison right now for child abuse. I was so happy to finally read Sherry's story because she gets to take control of the narrative, and now she gets to decide what she wants to share with her life, what she wants to keep private, and most of all, she's safe, as well as her siblings are safe from her mother. And it just goes to show you, you never really know what's going on in someone's life, especially if they're a public figure. Social media is fake. Sherry is so smart. She's going to do so many big things in her life, and I'm glad that her family is out of that situation. It does talk about the church since Sherry grew up Mormon, and it just shows you how all of the adults in her life failed her, and she still turned out to be an amazing person. Then I was doing a reread of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame before Onyx Storm came out, and I finished Iron Flame in January. I listened to it as an audiobook. I really enjoyed the audiobook experience because you can really hear the humor between the friend group. It makes it easier to visualize the action scenes. I rated Iron Flame 4 stars when I first read it. It's definitely not my favorite in the series. I still think Fourth Wing is. I do love this world. I do love the characters involved in it. And it was so good to refresh my memory before going into Onyx Storm. Next, I read No Place Left to Hide by Megan Lawley. This is a young adult thriller. I've read one other book by this author and I gave it 5 stars. The other book I read by her is called That's Not My Name. So I was really excited to read her newest release. And honestly, it let me down. And I think part of the reason is because it is a young adult thriller. Her first thriller was YA too, but it didn't feel like it. However, this one just felt very juvenile. The main characters were in high school, and I am so far past high school. That is not relatable to me anymore. I am old. But it just felt like petty mean girl drama. Kind of like Pretty Little Liars, but the story wasn't as interesting to me. Sorry if that's kind of brutal to say. I definitely recommend this to any teenager in your life though. I think they would think it's really entertaining without being too scary. I just didn't feel like a whole lot happened in this book, and I read thrillers because I want to be shocked at the ending, and this one did not shock me. I will read anything else this author writes though. I think this one was just a miss for me. Sorry, Megan. Then it was January 21st and Onyx Storm was finally released. I read it over 4 or 5 days, and I have to say I was disappointed in this book. I really fed into the hype surrounding this book, and that's why I wanted to reread them all, and I was just excited, and book talk was so fun during the release of Onyx Storm. And I don't know if I just hyped it up so much in my mind that I kind of let myself down by doing that. The beginning was a little bit confusing, which was kind of frustrating considering I did reread the first 2 books. I felt like there were a whole bunch of characters that did not need to be included in this. Names, places, people I will never remember again that just seemed kind of unimportant. But I know Rebecca Yarros always does seem to have a plan, so maybe I'll regret saying that. And I don't know, it feels like a filler book to me. I feel like I can't say too much without giving spoilers, but if you read the second book in the series, Iron Flame, and you just finished Onyx Storm, don't you kind of feel like we're right back where we started and that nothing really happened? Sorry, that's just how I feel. And I gave it 3 stars. I still love these characters. I love Xaden and Violet. I love their whole friend group. Overall, I still love the romance in here. the world, the college. It just seemed more high fantasy in this one, and I don't like to think too much when I read, okay? I don't want no super high fantasy. I want dumb people fantasy. And the ending, I'm most mad about the ending. We got no answers. Now we have to wait 2 years for the next book, so that's not cool. The ending made me so mad, but I will keep reading the series because I'm a sucker for these characters. I don't know if I can reread all these books again before the next book in the series comes out. Next, I decided to read something on my physical TBR, and I picked a little fluffy romance. I read The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I love everything Christina and Lauren have ever published. I don't think I've rated any of their books below 3.5 stars, and this one was no different. It was so fun. I loved the romance in this. It started off slow, but the ending, I was hooked. I was obsessed with these characters. I was giggling. Gave this 4 stars. Would recommend this to anyone. Definitely not my favorite by Christina Lauren, but I think I could read anything by them and give it a pretty high rating. I was still swooning over the male main character. And I actually really liked the female main character in this one. She was a strong, independent woman, and I loved that. That was the last book I read in January. Sorry, I thought I had one more. A great way to start the year, and I hope you guys found a new recommendation from this video. Comment down below if you guys have any recommendations for me for February, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. Come on, help me out, and definitely subscribe down below. Would love for you guys to stick around. I'll see you in my next video.